not just women are in danger, but all marginalized people, where being uniquely different right now might truly be considered a crime. It seems as though we had all slipped into a false sense of comfort, that justice would prevail and that good would win in the end. Well, good did not win this election, but good will win in the end. So what today means is that we are far from the end. Today marks the beginning of our story. The revolution starts here. The fight for the right to be free, to be who we are, to be equal. Let's march together through this darkness, and with each step, know that we are not afraid. That we are not alone. That we will not back down. That there is power in our unity, and that no opposing force stands a chance in the face of true solidarity. And to our detractors that insist that this march will never add up to anything,
Boston Red here with Friday Java, a weekly magazine of political theory, polling, and commentary. It is part of the history called people that make up this fascinating journey. We are part of the Obama network. For that, we make no apologies. What we pledge to do is give you the facts on a bridge to history, what body politics is, the most up-to-date theories of political science and psychology. Stay tuned for this incredible ride. Boston Red, peace out.
Friday Java. On the 5th of January 2018, our first program for the year 2018 as we roll along here. We have Friday Java, and of course on Saturday morning we have the week that was. Some of our programming here on the Boston Red part of WBRN radio programming and the Boston Red network. We did a special on podcasting in 2018. I have a little wrap-up to it. We didn't get it in the last time around. This is from the people at Blueberry and the Power Press podcast. Nonetheless, Blueberry.com, they're in the business, hosting business there. A quick look at podcast statistics here for 2017. Some of their clients include ABC Radio and ESPN. So they're somewhat of a stat house, no doubt about that. We predict that Apple's direct market share, not the third-party iOS apps, will fall below 50% by mid-year of 2018 as podcasting continues to become popular on Android. That's from Angelo Mandato, the CIO of Blueberry. Nonetheless, if we look at where Apple I.O. podcasts, iTunes, their share in 2017 was 55.5%. In 2016, it was 59.7%, and it was 64% in 15. And let's just back up here. In 2017, when we ran our own venture in internet radio, started out there, they had 96.5%. So they went from 96.5% to 55% last year. So it is a little different situation. 2008 when we formally started on the Blog Talk Network. At the time, early podcasting consumption required syncing between computer and mobile device. Not the case anymore. At the time, the Zane app showed great promise at 6.6%. Zane, of course, is long gone. Over 10% of broadcast consumption. No other app than Apple had achieved that, and that was in 2008. Zane is long gone now. That was a Microsoft product, but Apple started to take over the entire situation here. Let me just get back to this. We sort of had, okay. We're finishing up from the last podcast. Anyway, in 2012, they dominated the market with 75% of it. It used to be that people got onto iTunes, but a lot of this, one of the things people don't understand is that there are many, many people out here that do internet radio that have their own independent internet radio stations. Sirius is one of the big commercial type operations, but you have all of these, a lot of these people that have long since departed from these, the blog talks, etc. of the world, if they were ever there. You have like Rush Limbaugh, he's still on radio. I don't know if he's on TV anymore or not, but has his own internet radio station where you hear some and you pay for basic there. So that is what is happening with some of these people. Some have to do the grant type thing under the commercial common license. It really depends. And then you have the community radio stations. In other words, what I'm saying here is that we have a lot of different players and stakeholders in the game. And also, as Professor Reich does, he has his cast live on Facebook. And he and his students have produced the cast, and it's live. We try to carry it as much as we can. Usually it's on Tuesdays. He has a new cast, so look out for us pinning the cast on one of our broadcasts. And also at one time, News and Guts, that was Dan Raver. They still post there. He used to do a live cast. Of course, he's 85 years old. I don't know if he does one now or not. But all of these people, all of us are getting up. We just had a birthday ourselves. So that is basically it. And then, of course, you have the Google Cast, etc. So we, in this coming year, here at WBRN Radio, we'll be using more of these. But let's get on here to the New Yorker and Jack Cassidy, I believe is his name here. John Cassidy, get him right here in a minute. Anyway, this is Michael Wolff's book and his withering portrayal of DJ Trump. That book comes out later today. The background on Michael Wolff with two F's, Fire and Fury. Inside of the Trump's White House, extractions from which was set the internet ablaze on a Tuesday. The internet is here, social media, and that was in The Guardian. Publication on his resume, he's written for the New Yorker, Vanity Fair, The Hollywood Reporter, a chronicler of media power and wealth. He did some work on Rupert Murdoch's enterprises there and access with Rupert Murdoch. He's going around to visit various people on the conservative press. He's already put those interviews out there, and it involves Steve Bannon, Burt Barr fame there, and his various meetings there. It involves DJ Trump Jr., Jade Kushner, Paul Manafort, and a group of people connected to Russia. He described them as treasonous. This is and unpatriotic. This is Bannon here. Description. Now, DJ Trump has taken the unusual step of trying to silence Bannon, one of these non-compete clause in a contract. Can't do that in politics, won't work. And then he had an entertainment lawyer take on Henry Holt. That's the publisher on Wednesday, is stating with the investment banker having dined with Ailes. Well, the Ailes is not there to speak, and ended with Bannon standing outside the headquarters of Breitbart. That's a conservative news organization which he has returned to. In the index, Bannon's entry is considered considerably longer than anyone except DJ Trump himself. Bannon wasn't his only source, no doubt about that. He's got plenty of sources. When you get into places like the White House, there's a source in every corner. The president himself encouraged the idea. He gave, but given the most Pradans in the White House that came into open conflict with the first days of the administration, there seems no person was able to make this happen, especially since no one was there to say, go ahead. Hence, I became more of an interlocutor than an invited guest. That's a quote from Wolf himself. Wolf's methods will doubtlessly attract more scrutiny, and in some places he recreates entire scenes and others, etc. With these various people here, Steve Munchin, Regis Philbus, who is no longer around there. The president was an idiot. Gary Cohn, he was as dumb as S. And for H.R. McMaster, he was dope. The list goes on, and two people quoted in the book, Tom Barkett, longtime friend of Trump, and Katie Walsh, a former White House aide, denied making the negative comments. Well, they deny them. So to be a situation out there, Bannon's dismissive term for Ivanka Trump and Jade Kushner. What did he call her? Javanka. Anyway. Equally plausible is Wolf's portrayal of Trump as a one-dimensional figure who had no concept that he could win the election in 2016. There's no doubt about that. We got that from Trump himself. Little clue as to what to do after he emerged victorious from the campaign trail. Virtually no interest in or aptitude for acquiring skills and information needed to fulfill the role of president. Here was arguably the central issue of the Trump's presidency. Wolf writes, the commander-in-chief didn't process information in any conventional sense, or in any way that he didn't process at all. He continues, Trump didn't read, he didn't really even skim. If it was in print, as it might not well exist. Some believe that all the practical purposes he was no more than a semi-literate. Some thought him a dyslexic. Certainly his comprehension was limited. Others concluded that he didn't read because he didn't have to. He was postulated in total TV. Imagine TV. Anyway, this is the sum of his book here. One meeting, Wolf said the president referred to Hope Hicks, his communications director, as a piece of tail. In another meeting, he described Sally Yates, the former assistant attorney general, acting attorney general he fired early in his term after she referred to as cunt. Well, DJ Trump in action. People won't really be surprised by some of the language here because Trump has said it before. And this is one of those books that he's going to sell millions of copies of it because Trump has, as they say, used the corporate press to fire it up. And, of course, we're talking about it here. Fire and Fury also stresses the primary mover in the firing of James Comey was Trump himself. In the end, the president cut almost all of his advisors out of the loop, according to the book. And the book will be quoted in conservative media. It'll be quoted there. The New Yorker just got its first hit 8 days after he fired James Comey. The Attorney General, who is Ron Rothstein, appointed Mueller. to take over the investigation. Wolf was surely right to stress the momentousness of the decision to get rid of the rat, Trump's term for Comey. Well, the rat may be gone, but it is still there, period. Bannon supposedly told people there's a 33% chance that Mueller's investigation would lead to Trump's impeachment. A 33.3% is everything here. That Trump would resign, and perhaps in the wake of a threat by the cabinet to act on the 25th Amendment, and a 33.3% chance that he would limp to the end of his term. We see him limping there, but again, he's at around 40%, so he's not exactly, as they say, limping along. Let's go to our friends at the University of Virginia, Charlottesville, and Dr. Larry Sabato in the shop there. This is by Jeffrey Skelly. Anyway, getting right here. New Minnesota Senator Tina Smith, a lesser form of incumbency. Well, on Tuesday, Al Franken, as many know, formally resigned. We discussed in the last newsletter of 2017, we is the University of Virginia, Franken's resignation meant that Minnesota will hold a special election for Senate this coming November. Franken's exit paved the way for the governor there, Mark Dayton, to officially appoint Smith. Previously, the lieutenant governor has caused a lot of commotion there. Smith makes the 195th appointed senator since the ratification of the 17th Amendment. That was in 1913. Smith intends to run in the special election in November to complete the remainder of Al Franken's term. He'll be up in 2020. So effectively what's happening, she is running for the seat, and then in 2 years she'll have to run again. Of those previous appointed Senate incumbents, 117 sought re-election for a full or partial term, but went beyond the end of the current Congress. So that is, unsurprisingly, appointed incumbents have a worse track record than elected incumbents in both contests for renomination and general election. Since 1913, that was the year we got. It had been 1,405 elected incumbents have run again. Of those, 1,392 sought renomination as Democrats or Republicans, and just 85 lost renomination. That is, only 6% of elected incumbents lost their nomination fight in their party's primary or a convention. Conversely, 117 appointed incumbents have sought the party nomination for election to go beyond the current Congress. 8 other cases, appointed incumbents ran in special elections to serve a few remaining months of the term or did not seek a re-election there. So of the remaining 103 appointed incumbents who sought their party's nomination, 23% lost in the primary. This figure goes on to remember Luther Strange. He's been the latest casualty, with the sample size far smaller for appointed incumbents. Elected incumbents won renomination at much higher rates, 94 versus 77% there. Smith seems to have the backing of most major players in the Democrat Farm Labor Party. History suggests we shouldn't entirely discount noble intra-party challenge to notable to Smith. If she doesn't encounter serious opposition, it would most certainly precipitate a contested primary for the seat. Minnesota parties can endorse candidates at their convention, Many candidates choose to abide by the decision. However, some candidates opt just to run, period. Of the 103 appointed incumbents who were installed in office prior to seeking the nomination, 86 ran in primaries, 62 had to face primary opponents. Overall, 38 senators who faced primary opponents won the party's primary, that's 61%. Perhaps fortuitously for Smith, there is no runoff statute in Minnesota. All 6 appointed incumbents who went to primary runoffs met defeat. So she won't have to do that. And this mentions some of them over time. The 10 worst primary performance by appointed incumbents. We go back to 1963. J. Howard Edmondson in Oklahoma in the primary, 36.4% of there. Then Luther Strange was next. His was 32.8%. Robert Upton, don't know who he was. He's out of New Hampshire. And Joseph Gundy out of Pennsylvania. These are some of the worst ones there. George Berry out of Tennessee, 1937. All these are fairly old. Paul Hatfield in Montana, that was 1978 at 19%. And Herbert Hitchcock in South Dakota, 1936. So we really haven't had any in recent years, with the exception of Luther Strangelove, Big Luther, period. Strange is the most recent one. We won't spend any time on him because he bit the dust. What about appointed incumbents versus elected ones in general elections? Here, too, elected incumbents have a stronger record than appointed ones. Elected incumbents have won 1,095 of 326 elections. That's an 83% winning margin. Opponents won 62 of 93. It's not as impressive as one would think. The evidence showing appointed incumbents are weaker than elected ones corresponds to what we intuitively know about electoral politics. Some of the electoral strength comes with incumbency, is diverted from the fact that the incumbent had previously gone before the electorate. Won more votes than anyone else. Appointed incumbents don't have the same strength because they haven't been elected to the office they hold. And amongst appointed Senate incumbents are successful gubernatorial incumbents. The subject of an examination by the Crystal Ball that was in May of 2017, going back to World War I. Successor governors defined as those who took office because of the death or resignation of a previous governor. Won the rate of 63%. We'll see how this works out in Alabama. With the overall success rate of just above 50%, the history of appointing incumbents shows that Smith's certainty of holding her seat is far from a sure thing. Placing Smith's position in context, we only rate her chances as lean Democrat to start with. She may be aided by the presence of her popular colleague Amy Klobuchar on the ballot also. And they'll also have a governor's election. There are rumors of Governor Tim Pawlenty coming into the race. There have been rumors of a bunch of people coming in. Tim who? Yeah, that'll be all politics local. How local it'll be, who knows. To close out, we add a few more funny facts there. The state with the most appointed incumbents seeking election in their own right includes those appointed after they were nominated. North Carolina has 7. 6 came between 1948 and 1958. The Tar Heel State also has the primary losers amongst appointed incumbents the most. While Luther Strangelove, as we call him, was the most recent appointed incumbent to engage in election. The first was Johnson Camden Jr., 1914 of Kentucky. Camden only ran in a special election to finish off the term of his seat and didn't run in the other election there. We won't even get into what happened there to that poor fellow. Anyway, appointed in March 1916, nominated party convention in April. The ensuing special election, Thomas Taggart, a Democrat in Indiana, was first appointed incumbent to seek election for a term lasting beyond the current Congress. Anyway, he narrowly lost 48 to 46 to Representative Watson in November. Well, that is a little too far out here. The second most took place in 1954. At the moment, 2018 won such election in Minnesota, but a number of increased because of the health, the illness possibility of Senator John McCain or Thad Cochran in Mississippi. They might step aside. Warren Hatch has already stepped aside. In the meantime, we will wait and see how the Minnesota candidate field develops. There'll probably be a lot of candidates in the field there in Minnesota. Probably no doubt about it. Let us move on here. There's a new suit against Judge Roy Moore, a lady there, Lee Korfman, I suppose it's how it's Confman, has filed a defamation lawsuit. She's asking for a summary judgment, a public apology for Moore, a court-enforced ban on him or his campaign public attacking her again. Interesting lawsuit, and no monetary damages in it, a declaratory judgment. Kind of interesting that she used the declaratory judgment of defamation. Very unusual one. Defamation is usually very hard to prove. It'll be interesting how that breaks. We wanted to talk about his efforts to DJ Trump's effort to stop the book. He hired Charles J. Hardin, a Beverly Hills attorney, represents the president against Wolf and Henry Holt. The author and publisher, we already talked about the book, and he's threatened there. He sent cease and desist letters. This Hardin represented for a while Mr. Weissman. I guess he dropped out of that one. He did represent Hulk Hogan in the Gawker, who is no longer in business anymore. From Douglas Brinkley, a presidential historian at Rice University, likened Trump's action this week to those of Richard Tricky Dick Nixon, whose White House unsuccessfully attempted to stop the New York Times and Washington Post from the Pentagon Papers. A little bit different there. Several presidents, including Jimmy Carter and Theodore Roosevelt, have sued for libel after leaving office, but not in office. Trump is stealing a page out of Richard Nixon's playbook. Once again, Brinkley said, when you get criticized by the press or a book that attacks you, you attack back with curiosity. It is a misuse of presidential powers. Trump's decision was a deliberate one, according to people who have spoken with him, following the publication of the excerpts of Wolf's book. Trump released an initial lengthy statement saying that Bannon had lost his mind. Oh well. Hardin had previously represented Trump's wife, Melania, what the hell was she in? With the British tabloid Mail. Okay. Anyway, so he's back in business now and being in court. These things don't serve the president very well at all. I think the media would generally should stand strong and tall whenever Trump rattles his saber about lawsuits and intimidations. This is from O'Brien. Timothy O'Brien, the author of Trump's Trump Nation, yeah. So, in other words, the books will go on. They will inspire more books to come forward. and we'll see more of those. Usually we don't see most of these things until such time as the person is leaving office, but this is a little bit different. For Trump, he's going into Friday, not as bad there. National Basketball Association, the Warriors were at the Rockets in Houston. Warriors won 24-114. The Thunder was in Los Angeles. Thunder 127-117. Over to the National Hockey League. The Panthers and was postponed. The Islanders and Flyers. Islanders 4, Flyers 6. The Sharks and the Maple Leafs are final here. Let's see, where do we go? The Maple Leafs pull it out 3-2. The Lightning and the Canucks. Canucks 2-1 over the Lightning. The Golden Knights and the Blues. Their final last 6-2 in St. Louis. The Sabres and the Wild. Wild pulled that one out. 6-2 was the final. The Devils and the Stars in Dallas. 4-3 Stars over the Devils. The Blue Jackets and the Avalanche. The Avalanche 2-0 in that contest. The Ducks and the Oilers in Edmonton. 2-1. Oilers over the Ducks. I think they're the Anaheim Ducks. Yeah, they still are. The Kings and Flames. What sounds like a James Brown movie. 4-3 Flames over the Kings. And the Predators and Coyotes. Coyotes 3-2 at the Predators in Nashville and the Arizona Coyotes in a final overtime. That does it for the hockey season, and on we go. I'm not sure where we're going to, but we're going to somewhere. We had Roy Moore, DJ Trump, the special election in Minnesota. And incidentally, that has created another problem. The lieutenant governor there is now a Republican. The governor is 70 years old, has health issues, as they call it these days. And if anything happened to Governor Dayton, well, the Republicans would, as they say, be in a driver's suit. Incidentally, in Virginia, a Republican literally won a coin toss. It got down to that in an election there in Virginia. We'll see you on the week that was, which will appear here on Saturday morning, as it normally does. We have an open source report. We've been working on the Intel chips and various other chips out there, and the flaws that have been in them for around 20 years. That's also extended to Apple products. Have a good weekend, everyone. We'll talk to you on the week that was.